Hello, I am RJ, and I am sitting here with Kathleen Puttmann. Thank you so much for coming out here.
Thanks for having me.
This is going to be an absolutely crazy show we're going to be doing because it's the first one, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I thought it would take me maybe 15 minutes to go and set up everything, and it took over an hour. So we're off to a great start with all this, but I appreciate your patience. So, Kathleen, can you tell me? I understand. I've been looking at your stuff on Facebook, and I've been seeing that you're posting a lot of different things about the vaccines and the mandates. But tell me, what is it that your big focus is? What are you all about?
Well, my focus right now is helping people keep their jobs, people of faith, through religious exemptions is my biggest focus right now.
So how does that work? Because first of all, I want to make sure we're understanding things. Right now, we're filming this on December 7th, I think. Mm-hmm. And there are no vaccine mandates right now. Is that correct? There's no actual mandates on the national level?
No, they're still happening.
They are still happening?
They're still happening.
Okay.
Yeah, even though there are injunctions and restraining orders out there, they're still going forward with them.
The federal government is?
The private companies.
Oh, private companies.
Private companies, or those that fall under the CMS or the Medicaid, Medicare. And then privately owned businesses are still going forward with their mandates.
Okay. So although there's no federal regulations saying, or mandates, they've all been stopped or at least paused, we'll say, at this point. Mm-hmm. Their private companies are still allowed to go through and mandate all their employees are able to get vaccinated. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to help people who are working at these companies who don't want to get vaccinated and provide them with the resources and knowledge to be able to go through the medical exemption. Is that correct? Am I understanding that
religious
correctly?
Exemption.
Oh, religious exemption. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So people reach out, and people of faith mm-hmm. who have any level of faith, whether they're beginners, as a young adult, or somebody who's practiced religion their entire life. I coach them through the process. I don't write it for them. I coach them through a process of basically articulating their heart on paper.
Okay.
Based on faith.
So I guess I'm confused here too, because if I remember correctly, we have what's known as the First Amendment, mm-hmm. which gives freedom of religion. And so this seems like it should just be a process where you go to your employer and say, hey, my religion says I can't get vaccinated for whatever reason, or I've opposed the vaccination for whatever reason based off my religion. And the First Amendment should provide that protection. So why is it such a process? What am I missing here?
Well, we have a lot of companies that don't think the law applies to them right now. We should be able to, a lot like university or public school systems, we should be able to just say, I have a religious objection to this directive or to this policy, if you mm-hmm. will. And that should be it. That should be all somebody should have to articulate on paper. But instead, they're being asked gross questions.
What do you mean by gross questions?
Gross questions, such as, what faith are you? What religious denomination do you practice? Why do you think this vaccine goes against your religion? What higher power tells you can't? Where in the Bible does it say you can't? And I don't know about your Bible, but my Bible does not use the word vaccine. So... Mm-hmm.
So they're actually asking people to theological questions about how. I guess I'm confused by this because are these executives theologians where they're able to actually discuss the issues at hand and from a theological perspective, or what gives them the right to be able to go and actually do this? It baffles me.
COVID gives them the right. Laws have been grayed right now. higher authority doesn't have to follow law or concern for somebody's personal rights, why should the companies?
So, in addition to asking questions about their religion and specifically, what are some other things that they try and do to be able to stop this from happening from these people getting the religious exemptions?
Well, a lot of hostile work environment. There's workplace bullying by coworkers. Everybody knows everybody's business right now. If somebody's ever had COVID, everybody knows. There's no privacy whatsoever right now in the workplace. And so they use a lot of intimidation factors. They use they were using forms of bribery.
What do you mean? Like what kind of bribery?
Oh, we'll give you a $25 gift card to Hy-Vee if you go get the vaccine. We will give you a $100 bonus if you go get the vaccine. We'll let you not wear a mask if you go get the vaccine. We'll let you not wear the face shield if you go get the vaccine. You're part of the cool kids club if you go get the vaccine. It's just, it's so sad. It's so sad to watch because great people. My first wave was healthcare. And you have people that for the last 2 years have worked their tails off in this industry when none of us knew what COVID looked like. And now, they kind of went from heroes to zeros overnight. And it's just sad. It's so sad to watch the abuse on these people, and then whatever abuse they might be having at home, not abuse in a physical form. I would step in on a different level, but the emotional abuse that they're dealing with at home and work and the businesses that plaster the signs. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, but if you're unvaccinated, you need to put a mask on. Everywhere we turn, it's just a beating.
Yeah. And it's really making this two-class system that where, like you were saying, that you see it all over the place, where the signs that says, again, if you're not vaccinated, you have to mask up. And it almost seems to me that policy alone would be a HIPAA violation. And so and for those who are watching who don't know, and maybe you could give more insight on this because I'm not an expert on this by any means, but HIPAA basically it's a Health and Privacy Act, if I remember it properly, and it prevents your personal health information from being disclosed to people who are not authorized to have that information. So you have to oftentimes sign HIPAA forms whenever you go to a doctor saying that if someone wants you to get that information, that you have to release that information specifically. And so it seems like if you're having this policy that says if you're unvaccinated, you have to wear a mask. Now, I realize they're not enforcing it. And so I'm sure lots of people are just ignoring those signs. But even having a policy, though, if it's not being enforced, what's the point of having a policy? And if it is being enforced, then it seems like that's already a HIPAA violation. And it's baffling to me that from every aspect that people are experiencing this. You go to a store, you see the signs, and you're told you have to mask up if you don't have the vaccination. You go to work, and you're told that you have to. Even the fact that you go to any restaurant and all the people are wearing masks. I feel bad for the people. And my wife, she actually was working at Target, and she had to wear a mask all the time. And she doesn't work there anymore, but this was a big challenge that she had working there. So I want to know more about this whole process as far as getting an exemption. So if I am an employee, and let's say I'm working at Sanford, and I don't want to get the vaccination because it goes against my religious beliefs, then what should I be doing? Well,
a lot of people reach out to me.
Okay.
I've created a little small helping army to help me, so I'm not going to take full credit for doing all of this. I have a bunch of wonderful gals who have stepped up to the plate. I've kind of taught them the process.
And so real fast, is this all volunteer work? Are you guys just volunteering this, or is
Correct.
it something that you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. A service to people of faith.
Sure.
Faith's under fire right now. It's a persecution, if you will. If you have any sort of a belief system, and it doesn't even have to be a religious belief. According to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it's a deeply held belief, which could also include just a moral belief. It doesn't even have to come back to a Bible or a religious doctrine. Just that fire in your belly, something of a higher power saying to you, just don't. Anybody who is unvaccinated up to this point, as far as I'm concerned, has some higher power coming to them saying, just don't. We lay in bed, and some of us may or may not call it praying, but when you're laying in bed and you're saying, what do I do? You're praying. Like, who else are you talking to? You're praying to something bigger than yourself, and you go to sleep and you wake up that next morning and you're mad. Something came into you and said, no, you're not doing this. That you can only contribute to a higher power.
Sure.
And I use the word higher power because I have dealt with a lot of sectors of religion. It is not my place, just like it's not an employer or a government's place to dictate somebody's belief system. If my belief system is not infringing on your rights, I have a right to my own belief system. That alone has been warped by some. Well, your belief system is infringing on my rights because you're a germ and you're walking around and you're going to kill me. No, I'm not. I have no intention of killing another human being by breathing. And it's so incredibly warped, and I probably got off subject with that.
Oh, that's fine. Actually, one of the questions I kind of want to divert to real fast. I mean, it probably will be this real fast, but first of all, do you consider yourself a Christian?
I do.
Right. And you don't only help Christians, so this isn't a...
Correct.
Okay. And you mentioned before, the Bible doesn't have the word vaccination anywhere. It doesn't have the word, injection, immunization,
right.
like any of these things. So as a Christian, how can you say that it's actually against your religion when clearly the Bible doesn't speak on this at all?
Well, there's a lot of different approaches that I've read. For me, I follow my gut more than the scripture. My guts kind of guide me, so I don't know if that's more of a universe thing that speaks to me. But your body is a Holy Spirit. It's been awarded to you by God. And your job is to care for it. And putting something that could be considered impure or man-made, injecting it into your body, could be viewed as unholy or unclean, or defiling your temple, if you will. There have been a lot of people who have used the fact that all 3 of the COVID vaccines have used aborted fetal cells somewhere in its development. And depending on one's thought process on abortion, that is a big factor for some people.
I know for me, that's definitely one of the big things. Extremely pro-life. And when it's so upsetting when I hear about this. And I even actually was talking to someone at one point, and they tried making this whole argument that, well, at least, this gives some value to the life if it got aborted. It's like, no, that is such a cope that people are making to try and justify this horrific act. And it's I don't even know how much people are knowing about this too. Like, because for, people like you and me, we're looking at a lot of this stuff on a day in and day out. And so it's very possible that most people who are getting this vaccination, if they knew about that they'd be opposed to it as well.
I believe so. Yep. It's not something originally, actually, in the very, very beginnings of the religious exemption requests that were being put in. That was something that was getting them denied because the people reading the exemptions didn't have that information. We literally had to spoon feed them the science to show them that was a valid point.
So who is it exactly, like, in these organizations that is denying it?
I don't know. I have some belief that some of them are very godless people.
It almost seems to go without saying.
Yeah.
But
a lot of them are attorneys who their ego is probably their god. There's a power trip behind a lot of the denials I saw. And I have no idea who's actually behind this. I think there's some consulting firms out there that are being fed very ill legal advice behind how to approve or deny these. One word can discount an entire religious exemption. If you accidentally describing the aborted fetal cell use in the development, and if you say or if you say and final product, the whole religious exemption will get denied because that one word and instead of or.
Do they say why they're denying it, or do they just say we've denied it and you have to figure out why it was denied?
Most of them don't say why. It's just denied. And I learned through experience what to look for. As I proofread, I pop out some ideas to people in that beginning process. Here is an idea of what other approved ones look like. And I just had to gather those as we were going through the whole process because nobody's ever done anything like this before. And I just look for those little tiny things that could get them denied.
Sure.
And it was purely just based on experience. Why did this one get denied? It's beautiful. Like, I could feel that person's heart. I mean, there were so many religious exemptions that I cried because I could feel this person's heart behind their, articulating their heart on paper. And it was denied. And I just had to dig through and figure out why. And it was a lot of times just one word. And I'd be like, okay, change this one word and resubmit it and let's see what happens. And then it would get approved. Yeah.
So how many of these have you actually worked on?
Probably thousands.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So is there anybody else doing this, or are you basically the only person in a?
Yes. This is not just me.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, not. I know you mentioned that there was a team of people that you're working with. I'm saying, is there any other teams in South Dakota that do working on stuff like this and trying to help people get those exemptions, or is it you and your team that's the only people working on this?
I would hope there's an army of people like me out there. There's no way I could handle the amount of people that needed help during this.
Sure.
There's probably a lot of online templates out there for other types of religious exemption requests for, other scenarios that have been used pre-COVID. Liberty Council, I know, was helping people. There was First Liberty, Liberty Justice. Those are Christian-based attorneys that are pro bono helping people. And so there were a lot of templates that they offered people.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So, where do you think all of this is headed to? Like, is it getting better? Are you seeing less need for this, or is the need getting greater?
No, it's slowed down. I can actually breathe.
Good.
Yeah. I think, and I don't know if it's slowed down because things have stopped. I think it's slowed down because people have learned how to help other people. And it is kind of a ripple effect out. Once they saw a process that worked and kind of had an idea based on them and some of their friends, they were able to just put their hands out and help friends. Yeah, it's kind of it's been a beautiful, there is a silver lining to all of this madness. It has been a beautiful process to watch people's faith be called that again.
What do you mean be called that again?
I had some people, get my phone number because my number was just thrown out there for anybody and everybody. And I'm like 3 months behind. I was 3 months behind at the shop because that's literally all I did for a solid 3 months full time.
Did you work full time as well?
Yes, my husband and I own a diesel repair shop.
Okay, so you're doing all of this in addition to, for free, in addition to also running a diesel repair shop.
Well, I wasn't. I wasn't at the diesel repair shop, so I'm behind. I should have been also working, but I just had this.
So this is really something that I can tell you. You are very passionate about. I mean, it's to. I've have my own business and to go and say I'm going to go and do this other thing at the sacrifice of my own business, which is where your livelihood comes from. It's where hopefully your retirement and all of these things are coming from. I mean, it really shows an incredible amount of commitment and passion for this issue. That's absolutely commendable.
And I kind of fell into it. I went to coffee with a friend, and I just felt I Yeah. I feel very fortunate where I'm at because there are no mandates coming at me at this moment. I'm not affected by it. My livelihood is not affected by a mandate, and it will take quite a bit for any governmental agency to hit my paycheck.
Sure.
So I'm fortunate in that. And I went out with a friend for coffee, and I just said, I have to do something. What can we do? And it was just crazy coincidence. I got a text message asking if I could help write a religious exemption. And so I'm like, there we are. That's what we'll do. And so we were originally going to rent a building. We were going to set up tables. We were going to have little workstations. We had no idea how we were going to do it. But the gal I was figuring it out with has been doing religious exemptions for her entire life.
Sure.
And I'd never even heard of them before. We've never had anything like this before.
What kind of things was she making the religious exemptions for previously?
Vaccinations through the school system for her daughter.
I see. Okay.
Yep. And then she also worked for a healthcare facility, and she had done religious exemptions on herself for like the annual flu vaccine. Because that was the only one that's ever been mandated before.
Sure.
Or I don't even know if they called it mandated. Suggested.
Were those attacked as viciously as the COVID one has been, or was it something that you could just fill out quickly and it just went
quickly?
Okay.
If somebody put in a religious exemption, it was just beep, approved.
Okay. Yeah.
There was no question. How it should be.
Yeah.
That's how it should be. And now they put accusations of people having a cop-out with faith. And I think that is very irresponsible of a business to even suggest. I don't think anybody would ever put in a religious exemption request if there wasn't some sort of faith. I mean, our entire country was founded on faith values.
Yeah.
And I couldn't coach anybody on how to put their heart on paper if it wasn't genuine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there were fakers in there, whatever, I am of human flesh. That judgment will come from somebody who is not in a human form someday. But either way, I think people should use their faith right now. This has shown or has come to light to be a good versus evil type thing right now. Not saying that people who choose to take the vaccine for themselves are evil. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But anybody who questions another person's faith, that's an evil tactic as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of how I've always used it. It's a personal decision. You can choose to do it. You can choose not to do it. And that's something that each individual person needs to decide on their own.
Correct.
The evil aspect is forcing people to do things and requiring that if you don't do this, we're going to be taking away your livelihood. We're not going to let you be able to go buy Christmas presents for your kids because you're not going to be able to work.
You're not worthy.
And and that's what I see as evil. And this is something where I see everything that's happening, not just with COVID, but also, of course, with the Ghislaine Maxwell trial and all the things that are behind that as well. And it really does seem like there is, in a very, I don't know how to say real sense. It's kind of like a real spiritual sense, but I think people who aren't religious have a hard time maybe understanding that. But in its very literal sense, that it is this battle that is actually happening between good and evil. And even when we look abroad and we see what's happening in Austria and Germany, and it's this almost like this incredibly dark joke that the places where, and I know the whole thing, you're trying to invoke the words Nazis and stuff, but it literally was Nazis that were in Germany and Austria, and the fact that now they're having it where they're doing these lockdowns and forcing people to get vaccinations, and where it's going there is astonishing. And then not to even mention the absolute insanity that's going on in Australia. Are you familiar with what's going on in Australia?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And again, for those who don't know, they're right now they are taking people, particularly the Aboriginals, so that the people who are native to Australia, they are forcibly taking them to camps in Australia and holding them there against their will. And it's, people try saying that this isn't happening and try denying it and try arguing about it, but there's proof. This is not even like you have the I can't remember what the name of the political person is, but the person in Northern Territories there saying that we're thanking the military for helping us out with this. So we just had a little break there. One of the batteries died on the camera, so I'm trying to figure what I was talking about. Australia. I think it was. Yeah, and so it's like I was saying though, but there's just this. It's so clear right now that there is this incredible battle of good and evil, and this is really, and this is, I know you mentioned the same thing, that you basically felt like you got pushed into this, and that's basically where all this started. Doing the whole the people have spoken started from, where it just realized that I started seeing the same ideas, seeing these things, that these horrible things that were going on, and not enough people were standing up and talking about it. And I felt pushed into this. I was actually trying to avoid not doing this because I realized actually I look at people who are in a very similar situation what I'm trying to do here, that people who have succeeded in what I'm trying to do, and they are getting stripped of things like access to Twitter, access to PayPal. There's people who no longer can use Uber because Uber just bans them because of their views. And I understand even going into this that if I succeed, that is what's ahead of me.
Right.
And it's this whole idea that if I don't do this, I have kids, and I need to be out there fighting so that way, hopefully, my kids don't have to go and suffer. And especially if we're, again, seeing all these parallels with Nazi Germany and communist takeovers and all these things, these horrible things that we've seen in the past, and we're starting to see this happen again. Two of my kids are special needs, and they are the first people to get rounded up. I mean, and it's a horrible thing, and it's why it is so important that we do have people who are out there fighting. So you've said that you have a team of people. About how many people do you actually have working with you right now?
Well, that I'm aware of, 6 or 7 gals.
Okay.
Maya Olson, I don't know if you remember her from the peer rally. She runs Health Freedom of South Dakota.
Okay.
I put a post out and I'm like, hey, I need a tester group to run my first really bad religious exemption workshop on. Who wants to be my guinea pig? And she popped me a private message and she says, this is what I've been doing for 7 years. She's been trying to warn us about this for 7 years. And I'm like, this was a thing 7 years ago? Completely clueless to what her world has been. But she popped right into my private messages and was like, I want to help. And she had the platform of a business Zoom call. And so we were able to, instead of renting a building and have that expense, she says, let's just do this over the phone. And that way we're not geographically shutting people out. And so that's what we did. And we were able to help anywhere from, 30 to 200 people on one phone call. And so we were doing those every single week. We would set them into a messenger chat, and we would feed them some starter information on what was to come and when to log in and how to log in. And then we would go through the call. And then after that, people would send us their rough draft exemption requests. And Maya and I would, hammer through them and kind of proofread them.
Sure.
Make sure there wasn't anything that was going to, right off the bat, get them denied.
So with this team, you have, like you said, like 5 or 6 people. What is it? Are they basically doing the exact same thing you're doing? Are they just proofreading? What exactly? How in a more in a very realist sense, how are they actually assisting people and coaching people?
Well, people reach out and say, hey, I got your name from whoever.
Sure.
I hear you're helping with religious exemption requests. And so I just send them a bunch of examples, approved requests that have already gone through corporate America and have been approved. And I just say to them, have a piece of scratch paper ready and write down sentences that resonate with you, scripture that you resonate with. I actually coach people to stay away from the aborted fetal cell line, because when I help somebody write a request, I want it to cover every mandate that could come at us coming forward, no matter what the ingredient is.
Sure.
And so I coach away from using that in a religious request or an accommodation request. But I just give them examples. And then I say, and then, pray. And then put your heart on paper and then send it to me, and we'll, edit it, if you will. Sometimes I'll get like a 3-sentence and I'll be like, probably won't work. It should work.
Yeah.
But, what scripture like pops out at you? Where does this feeling based on what they send me? Because I don't ever want to tell people what their belief should be. So I kind of just pull it out of them of what their belief is so that it can be genuine on paper. And then they just add to it. I'm like, take a minute, pray on that, and where and what. How does your belief system come into the vaccine without going into science?
Sure.
Because this isn't a scientific argument. This is why does your belief system say not to? So yeah, they would just send it to me, and we would just kind of work it from there. And then once it looks good as far as I'm willing to judge somebody's faith on paper, I say looks good.
So do you have any support from the churches or any other religious leaders?
No.
Is it, have you ever talked to them, or is it just that it just never got connected, or has it been that? Because one of the things that really upset me during 2020 was the way the churches just they crumbled. They complied with everything, and they closed down, and it was I want to say devastating to me. It was not in the sense that I felt so bad that I lost these, but in the sense that I hoped that the churches were stronger than that, and the fact that they weren't was just devastating. That how poor of a state Christianity is in the United States.
Yeah.
And so going back to my question though, is it a case where there just hasn't been a connection, or has it been a case where there's actually been rejection?
No, I think it's lack of connection.
Okay.
Probably. I want to believe that. This is a crazy time.
Yeah.
So there's a part of me that understands, and when you have a congregation that probably has, an older crowd in it. They were the top risk factor.
Yeah.
And so you have a leader say, no, we're still going to have church. We're going to go against what could kill all of you, according to what they knew at the time. And we're still going to have church. It could put a sour taste. So they were kind of at a crossroad, if you will.
I do get that. And I've gotten to the point, especially, in 2019, 2020 even, I would give people a lot of benefit of the doubt. And I've gotten to the point where I just don't do that anymore, because, or
I'm with you on that now.
I do it a lot less. Okay. And of course, when things first started happening, where most people would agree that, they started hearing about all these stories that are coming out and how bad it was and the risk factors. And even myself, I was saying, yep, I guess we can shut down for 14 days. So that's what it's going to take. And I'm willing to give you guys that benefit of the doubt there. And I can understand and that churches are going to go along with that as well. That saying, sure, we can go along with this. But when he started going and having, Easter services canceled, and it just kept going on and on, that the churches just seemed to say, well, we have everything online. And from my perspective, church is all about the community.
Correct.
It's not about the building. It's not about the sermon. It's not about the worship music. It's not about how good your band is or the cool graphics you have on screen. It's only about the community. That is the only thing that matters within a church. And the fact that they're taking away the community, sure, we can go and watch the preachers on screen and see them do their thing, but that's not community.
Correct.
That's the sermon. I don't want to say I don't care about that, but it is so small in comparison to the community aspect. And I guess my bigger issue is that it took the churches too long to come back and say, we're not doing this. We have a First Amendment right, and you guys can't make us do this. And we even have that pastor up in Canada, which I don't know if you knew about this or not, but there's a pastor in Canada who he was having a church service. He was from Poland, and so he went through all the horrible things that happened in Poland between the Nazis and then.
I do remember him.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so police showed up, and he was just there yelling at him, get out, and ultimately he was arrested. And last I heard, I haven't paid too much attention to the story, but last I heard he is out now and he's not in jail. But it's, we look at the people in the New Testament, people like Paul, who he did go to jail. He was put in prison many times. And maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. Again, I was doing a lot before. I'm less likely to do it now. But it's just, I'd love to see some pastors just really to stand up, or just church leaders, anybody within the church, just stand up and say, you have no authority here.
Yeah.
We serve a higher power. We serve someone greater than you. And yes, it might be a case that they get arrested and pulled into jail. It might be a case that they lose their taxes and shin status. And it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. And so this is the point that really frustrates me. But at least to know that there hasn't been any rejection from the church. It'd be really cool if there are any pastors or anybody in the churches that are listening to this right now or watching this to even have you come and do, again, it's up to you if you want to, of course, but even try to connect with you. And maybe you do a workshop at the churches and try and
That'd be great.
And really connect there. So if there is anybody who wants to actually connect with you, how should they connect with you?
Well, they can call me, and I can have you note my phone number.
Sure.
I
don't want you to put on the video.
Huh? Yeah.
Is like an email that they can get that we can put out there, or is it
I kind of despise email.
Despise email?
It's for old people, and I'm not ready to claim that yet.
I see.
Yeah. Facebook Messenger is a great one. I could do an email, I suppose. It's just my name at yahoo.com. So I'm sure you'll have my spelling of my name on your video.
Well, I could also put something down in the description. So if Facebook Messenger, wherever works best for you, I just want to make sure that if you're doing really important work here, and I want to make sure it's an easy way for people to connect with you. And actually, as something that I do, I actually have 2 cell phone numbers on my phone. there's an app called Sideline. It does cost some money, and it used to be it used to be free, and now you have to pay for it. But I find it so worthwhile that I do. So my regular cell phone number is actually a Colorado number, and I also like having a South Dakota number. So I have this app Sideline, and basically it's a separate phone app that gets you a separate phone number, and so that way it works really well for people who have independent businesses. Kind of like what I do, where if I don't want to give people my full cell phone number that's connected to my AT&T account, I can give them the Sideline number, and which is actually what you have. So
and I'm okay with my phone number being out there. I actually look forward to a hater trying to call me at any point. Yeah, I have.
Have you gotten a lot of people calling you if it's like mad at what you're doing?
No, I haven't.
Not yet.
No. Which is kind of surprising because my number is out there all over the place. And I let people know that they don't have to vet their friends to hand my phone number to them because I said I welcome a hater. I have a lot of pent-up anger that hater wants to initiate a little bit of that pent-up anger. I welcome it. Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Redhead. Yeah.
I was before we started rolling the cameras, I was talking about I don't have a name for this show, and so again, if anybody's watching and you have an idea for a name, let me know. But the name that I have that I don't want to come up with that I've kind of putting thought into is the RJ Rage Hour, because it's something that with all that's going on is I just feel this rage building up, not this like angry rage that I'm going to do anything horrible or anything, but it's just like I am so sick of people who are out there trying to oppress me, and I just want to go and rage against that. And it seems like that's basically the same thing that you're feeling.
Absolutely. Actually, in the very beginnings, I was frustrated and I was going to quit. I felt like I was giving these corporations an easy pass, a way to keep good people, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to watch them fail, and I wasn't going to just softly hand them a bunch of faith-based people.
Yeah.
And them be able to just keep doing what they're doing. What actually changed that for me was I got a call from a gal, and 2 of her friends had committed suicide shortly after the mandate had been aired. That shook me to the core. And from that point forward, then it's like I have to do whatever I can to save people. And if it means letting these companies keep doing this to people and backing people into a corner, at least I can give them a step out of the corner. We're going to keep your job.
Yeah.
And your faith is going to help you, because right now that's what we should be relying on. We've dropped to our knees. Many of us, several times throughout all of this last 2 years of chaos, we've dropped to our knees in just what is happening, what is going on in everything I thought I knew about our country. And in one sweeping motion, it's just taken away from us.
Absolutely.
And so we've dropped to our knees, and the only way we can get back up is with some faith to pull us back up and say, we've got this, and we have good vibes on our side, if you will. And I'm always referring to faith in a very generalized fashion, because I don't want to discount anybody's belief system. So I am Christian, but that doesn't mean that other people have to be that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I totally agree with that. Something that before we actually can start rolling the cameras, I was talking about some of the basically what I do for my work. That I used to have a regular job and I don't anymore. And one of the things I didn't mention at that point, which kind of goes into what you were saying, is back when this all started, back in maybe it was March or something. I remember there was an experience I had that also really pushed me to say, like, just lose trust with employment in general. And that was, so COVID started, and there's still a lot of confusion. It's fairly early on, so again, I can give a little bit more leeway with that. But like I mentioned before, I have 2 kids that are special needs, and they don't like being cooped inside the house.
Right.
And this was cold outside, so we couldn't take them out to the park. It was snowy and windy. And one of the things they like to do is just like going to stores. Like, it doesn't matter where it is. They just like walking around, seeing things, and it's great. So we went to Menards because my wife had to get some things at Menards. And we arrived there, and they tell us that they're not allowing kids inside Menards. And this was... I cannot express how upset this made me. I think this is really where the rage first started igniting. And I can't explain to my kids that what's going on. They have no way of understanding. And so I had to go basically drag them across the parking lot back to the car just screaming because Menards wouldn't let kids inside. And I, in my rage, I went onto the Sioux Falls online rummage, and I made this long post saying how I was so upset at what Menards did and that this was just horrible. And I think it was that Monday. I think this was on a weekend that happened, and on the following Monday or Tuesday, I come into work, and my boss, he takes me to his office and said, so RJ, we got some people complaining to us about what you were posting online. Now, the things I was posting online had absolutely nothing to do with the line of work I was in.
Right.
No relationship. The things I was posting, again, maybe I can argue that wasn't a wise thing to do, and that we can have that discussion. But I didn't. I mean, I'm not threatening anybody with violence. I'm not, using any profane language or anything. I was just expressing my frustration and my anger about what's happening and just the way people are handling this, and to have strangers go and try and make me lose my job because of this. And this is something where after that, I wasn't able to go and do anything with the people who have spoken after that because I just felt like I had to censor myself from that point.
Yep. And
ultimately what I get to is the way I see it is I would love to see a lot of people quit their jobs, especially the ones that are mandating this. Try and find either a place that will hire you that isn't requiring any vaccination,
right?
Or try and find a way to do it yourself. If you can figure out how to be self-employed, and I understand it's not for everybody. That's why I say this is like the ideal thing. If you can do it, yes, that would be the best thing in my opinion, is to go and try and be self-employed because it's there's a lot of problems with employment in America in general, which we can have a whole other discussion on that because that's a big thing I'm passionate about. But for those who can't, and I understand it's not everybody, I think the things that you're doing to try and really help people understand that they don't have to bend a knee, they don't have to just capitulate to everything that they're being told is so incredibly important. And actually, I did have another question for you. Are you only helping people here in South Dakota, or is it something that you're helping people across the country?
Wherever my phone number lands.
Oh, really?
All over. Yeah. Yep. I just helped a gal in Colorado get her job back.
Oh, nice.
I had a connection, and I can't reveal any of my connection there.
Yeah.
But I was able, she had been terminated. They denied her religious exemption due to the technicality of wrong science. And so she had to write an apology letter. That was rough. She huffed through the whole process. But we had to write an apology letter, and then we resubmitted a new religious exemption minus all the science, and she got her job back. She had been employed for 21 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And Colorado, as most people know, is not a cool state to be in right now.
Yeah, I mentioned I have a Colorado number. I used to live in Colorado. I loved living there, and I am so glad I'm not living there anymore.
Yeah.
I live in a fairly upscale part of the area, actually, and we just had my wife and I had rented a room in this lady's house. Great, very good friend of ours, and she actually let us know, like, during this whole COVID thing, like, even in this very nice area with very expensive properties, they had people just camping out in people's yards, and there was nothing that anybody was doing about it. And just seeing where that goes. Oh. And this is something that talking about where direction things are headed. One of my concerns about all these things with mandates, and you've alluded to this as well, is I actually went and looked up South Dakota law, and I don't know what the actual title is and all that, but in South Dakota law, it says that you can't, and I'm paraphrasing this because I'm not an attorney or anything, but basically it says you can't discriminate against people for things like race and based off of their disability and based off their religion and a couple of other things. I don't remember all of them. I know the fair housing laws really well, but not this particular exactly. But my concern here is, again, two important ones there is we have disability and we have religion. And this is for South Dakota, but there's similar things in most states, and I think there's even something on a federal level, but I may be mistaken about that. So if we're having it right now where people are saying that you can't work because of your disability or your religion, is it a far stretch? Do you think it's a far stretch to say that this is going to go elsewhere?
Oh, absolutely not. No. We have opened Pandora's box on discrimination on all levels. Right now, it sits okay with people because it's only a medical status and it's only a religion, but we have opened the door to all forms of discrimination via the employer. We have given our governor and our legislators, as far as I'm concerned, because they have done nothing to put a specific codified law on the books when we begged for it. I believe they're going to toy with it in January. We'll see how that goes. But this is going to be ugly in all forms of discrimination, including racial discrimination. If I, as an employer, don't have to hire you because I don't want to accept your religious exemption, which means I'm discriminating against you, and if I don't have to hire you because of your medical status, aka you're unvaccinated, I now don't have to hire you because of your natural origin or your color. They have opened that box, and it's going to be ugly. And then they're going to have to figure out how to close it.
So, do you have you been working with the legislature at all? Have you been talking to anybody about trying to get this?
We have a couple great ones.
Okay.
A couple is probably not even enough. There's a lot of great ones, more bad ones as far as I'm concerned. I have spoke with at least two of the hard senators, and I would like to believe I planted a seed on the Pandora's box theory of if we're discriminating over here, we're going to be discriminating over there. But nobody will touch it till January. Well, by January, all the mandates will be done. It's done. You've already let these companies do what they've wanted to do. Our governor straight out gave them permission. I'm not going to tell a business what to do. I'm a business owner, and I can guarantee government is in my business way more than I would like them to be.
I was listening to Christine Noem talk about that actually, and I remember she was saying this idea that it's your business is like your home, that you don't want to I forget I'm going to paraphrase it, but again she's comparing this idea that your business is the same thing as your home, and if you don't want your federal government coming to your home, why would you want into business? And my thought to that is, well, look, if I wanted to, I'm not saying this is anything I do or want to do, and I'm against this, of course, but if I wanted to, I could say, hey, this is my home. I don't want anybody who's black in here.
Correct.
Okay, that is my right because it's my home. If I'm an employer, I do not have the right to do that.
Correct.
And so it seems like that her equivocation here is so incredibly off base that it's I don't even know if she's an attorney or not, or if she has a law degree or not. But if she did, it would seem like that's almost malpractice in a sense that she's giving people such bad information.
Yeah.
Like I'm almost looking at. I remember, Biden. He before he was president, when he's vice president, he said the whole thing that if you talk about guns, like if you have someone come to your property, just take your shotgun, shoot up in the air. It's like, well, that's illegal to do. You're telling people to do illegal things. And it seems like that's exactly what now we're having Christine Noem do, just in the case of employment. And has anybody been out there to try and talk to her and try and say, hey.
One of the 200 messages I've left the woman, yeah, she's aware. She's aware. One of the things that I have, I put in a note when we were out in Pierre, to be delivered to her. Now, if she read it or not, I have no idea. Of the many messages I've left her to call me back. One of the examples, and I think I actually put it on one of her posts. I said, when you say that I get to choose for my own business and government shouldn't be able to come in and tell me what I should or shouldn't do, I own a diesel repair shop. So I could now say, hey, you don't get to clock in, mechanic, until you drink a half a thimbleful of antifreeze. And if you don't like it, go find a new job. Okay? Are they going to drink a half a thimbleful of antifreeze? Take that risk? Well, I hope not. And I actually kind of joked with it. I went back and I said to our mechanic, I said, hey, before you can clock in, you have to drink a half a thimbleful of antifreeze. And he's like, okay. I'm like, no, wrong answer. Wrong answer. I said I would never do that. Don't drink antifreeze, please. But that is what you open up. When you say a company can do whatever policy they want, you also, I believe, are opening the door to sexual assault, as far as I'm concerned. When I hear her, I can hear her in two different ways: a logical thinker or a tyrannical, power-hungry, egotistical, all the other words you want to put to that side. I can hear her in two different fashions. I'm a logical thinker. I know that her intent is in regards to the vaccine only. They can do that if they want to for public safety. But if I were to go onto the tyrannical rampage that we know a lot of business owners are like, I can now hear, okay, so company policy is if you want to be my secretary, you have to sleep with me. Company policy, you don't like it, go get a different job. Right?
Yeah.
I can now say that. She literally gave that kind of an egotistical business owner that permission.
Wow. That's an interesting point.
I just put it in my handbook.
Yeah.
I can write whatever I want in my handbook now. In the realm of unemployment, when we very first got started in business, we had to get unemployment insurance.
Yeah.
And one of my question was, how do I keep my claims from going, from having claims? And I was coached and told that you have to have, a certain amount of verbal warnings, some written warnings. Your people have to be made very well aware of what policies. And then they have to have, a couple like, hey, reminder, this is against our company policy. There has to be some legwork behind that before they can be denied. And we have nothing in South Dakota protecting our people from this mandate. Nothing.
I see. So, speaking of the unemployment, this is actually an interesting point because I've heard, and this is something I just don't understand, but maybe you have some better understanding since you are an employer, that if you actually get fired because you don't take the vaccination and you don't have an exemption, that you don't qualify for unemployment. Am I totally off base on that, or is that actually accurate?
It's correct. You violated company policy.
So, how does that make sense? Or
it doesn't make sense.
I'm probably asking the wrong person, but
no, because as an example, and this isn't a personal example, if I had an employee who was repeatedly coming to work drunk.
Yeah.
Now, I've not had that experience, but if I were to have that experience, I would have to give a certain amount of warnings. They're definitely violating company policy, either coming to work drunk or under the influence of anything. I have to give them a couple warnings. Now, if they were to come and an accident were to happen, that could be an immediate termination due to gross negligence on their part.
Sure.
There is no gross negligence on anybody's part by having either a religious or just a plain conviction of, I don't want that in my body. That's not gross negligence on the employee's part. I have no idea how unemployment is denying these, honestly.
Wow. So one of the things also then, so Chrissy Noem, she's up for re-election. Mm-hmm. This is something that I have a hard time understanding, is that there seems to be a lot of people who really dislike the idea of mandates. Mm-hmm. It seems to be something very popular with the GOP overall. And Chrissy Noem, she fancies me as someone who really cares about what the GOP looks like overall, because some people are thinking that she has her eye on the White House, possibly in 2024. So what I have a hard time understanding is, why is she ignoring this issue? Who's on the other side providing the pressure so that way she doesn't take any action on this?
A paycheck by the big corporations. She wants to sound like she's protecting us and has protected us. She hasn't. Our legislators did. She tried shutting our state down. Our legislators stopped her. She is, as far as I'm concerned, a paid actor. She looks really good on TV. She's cute. I'll give her that.
Sure.
But she talks out of both sides of her mouth.
Yeah, that's definitely something I've really started noticing lately. And again, for anybody who's watching on this, I do have an interview a speech from Steve Howgard, which a bunch of question and answers afterwards. And in that video, he does a very good job about highlighting some of the ways that the legislature were the ones that were really defending not the American people, the South Dakotans, and not Kristi Noem. And Kristi Noem was actually trying to provide more lockdowns and provide more restrictions. So if you want to know more about that, be sure to watch that video. So I think I didn't plan on timing this for some reason. So I don't know why. But one part I really want to get into is, what steps should people be taking? So obviously, if they're currently they're currently employed at a company that is going to be mandating the vaccination, they should reach out to you. But if there's people who aren't in that situation, but they still want to start fighting, they're feeling the same thing that you and I feel, where we just have to start doing something. What are some things that people can be doing? What are some good actions that people can be taking, since actions are what actually brings us back to change?
I think calling out the companies that Menards, you mentioned Menards.
Yeah.
Mask Nazis is what I called them. I had my own experience, and I know a lot of other Menards experiences that were not pretty.
I refuse to go there. I've still not gone back there. I used to, that used to be my my to-go hardware store.
Yeah.
And now I tend to go to Ace if I have the Ace and again Home Depot for certain things that Ace doesn't have. But I still have not come back there. Sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. No. That's the point I was trying to make. Stop doing business with the companies that are doing this, either
but is that
to
enough?
their people.
And this is what I'm really looking for. Is it enough to just not do business with them? Menards has a lot of big stores. And frankly, I don't have a construction company. I'm not a contractor. It's occasionally I might want to do some little projects, and I'm not. They probably would never even notice me, my lack of patronage to their stores. So is it really enough to just say, well, I'm not going to go and shop there anymore?
Yes, in large numbers, when we do that together, because we are stronger together, I believe it does. It's all we can do as an individual.
Sure.
Is make where am I going to give my hard-earned money that keeps going down and down and down in value lately? Who's going to benefit from that? So you as an individual just need to make a choice to stop doing business with the companies that are doing this. So that's one way of taking action. Calling out these companies publicly is another form of embarrassment. I mean, look what your one wimpy little Sioux Falls page almost lost you your job. It caught some attention.
Yeah.
So you did ruffle some feathers. Getting into, and this is kind of slightly off subject, but those of us who can see through this BS have got to get involved with anything we could possibly get involved with on any sort of government level. And I'm not saying you need to go campaign to be governor, okay?
Right.
That's big. Or go run for Congress, or put your name on the ballot to be the president of the United States. Start showing up to school board meetings. Start holding people accountable. We can hold people accountable just by being a body in the audience. So school board, city council, coming out to peer when they're in legislation and seeing what our state is actually doing and who should and shouldn't be in office running our state. We can protect ourselves from the big stuff by getting involved, whether it be locally or state level. Just get involved somehow. I don't want to discount my meme link slingers on Facebook, but that's not enough right now.
It's not.
It's not enough. You can share the information, but what are you doing about it? I am on a weight loss journey right now. It probably took 200 times of looking in the mirror going, what are you doing? Until I finally said, well, do something about it, dummy. You know, you have to look in the mirror and just say that. Who's going to do something? I'm only one person. I am only one person. You're only one person. So people sharing your videos of anything that they resonate with, even for a little bit, sharing your videos and getting that word out there, showing up to anything you can get yourself involved in.
So something else that I was just thinking about this, and I think a good way of framing it up might be to say that what people should do is make sure that their state legislatures, the people who are representing them, make sure those people know your name.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, to be clear, is that you should be, like, first of all, you should know who they are. I would be surprised that if I went onto the street and talked to anybody, I'd probably have to talk to 20 people at least before I could find someone that actually even knew the name of their state legislatures.
Yeah.
And that's probably even optimistic.
Right.
And I mean, it'd be actually kind of impressive. It's only 20. But my point is that if you know who those people are, and you start, looking up any news stories about them, keeping track of what they're doing, and then anytime there's any issues, make sure you are sending letters, calling them. Like, I'm not saying that you have to be, and not necessarily be their friends. Like, make sure that they know what your opinion is.
Right.
Because if you're the person that they know who it is, and they say, oh, well, I know I'm going to be hearing from John Doe, or I'm going to be hearing from R.J. Isaac about this whole thing, then whether they want to or not, you now becoming the voice of your district.
Yeah.
You are the person that they're going to be thinking, well, no one else is telling me what I should be voting on. No one else is telling me what I should be doing. But I'm hearing a lot from RJ, so RJ's probably the person who really cares about this, and he's going to be really, I don't want to get him mad, because if he's willing to go out all this effort and tell me what I should be doing in peer, then when it comes to re-election, he's probably going to be out there campaigning against me if I'm not doing the things he wants to do. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't take. Again, it's something you can do very easily. You can easily go, and I'll put links in the description where you can go and find out who your state representatives and state senators are. And once you know who those people are, then be sure to make sure that they know who you are. It goes both ways. And I think that's a really good way of being able to have some influence there without having to go and do anything crazy with cameras and
right.
lights or spending, all the time that you did, working on that. And again, if you have the energy to do that and you do feel the call, then we need people who, like us, who are stepping up and wanting to talk about these issues. And again, if you are someone who is stepping up and that I haven't talked to, then please let me know. Because I'm looking for more people to be sitting in Kathleen's seat here and having these kind of discussions. I want to be putting out more of this content that people can share and let everybody know about all these issues that are facing the state, facing the country, because it really does come down to awareness. It really just comes down to people waking up, and I think people are waking up a lot more right now.
Absolutely. And to ease people's mind on the legislators, don't be afraid of them. Come spend a couple days in peer. They're just like you and I.
Yeah. Well, they literally are. Like, if I went onto the website, and it has a list of what their occupations are, and it's not like most of them are not these. They're not politicians. I mean, again, they're not even paid enough to do this full time. I mean, some of them people are retired.
Some of them are paid higher than other under the table. But
Sure. Well,
yeah.
That's a separate issue.
Yeah.
But you have, most of them are going to be people like real estate agents and insurance agents and just people, a lot of people who own their own business because it gives them the flexibility to go out to peer. But they are very normal people. And one thing I've noticed about South Dakotans is South Dakotans don't like people who wear suits. This is just my observation.
Yeah.
And people can argue about this, but when you, I don't want to say that I don't know what it is. I don't want to put my opinions on what it might be. But I've seen it where when you have people who wear suits, they don't like it. They don't feel comfortable. It's like, why? You should be wearing jeans and a shirt and just be more casual.
Yep.
And I think this might be part of the issue is that you then go, like, I was surprised even when I went to Pierre, all the legislatures there are still wearing suits. And so it seems like it creates this bit of a separation there that they're just, kind of different group of people.
An intimidation.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, to second what you're saying, yeah, no need to be intimidated. It's, again, that they are there to serve you. You are their boss, not the other way around. And this is why, again, know who your legislatures are and make sure your legislatures know who you are. And I think that's, again, going back to the key.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was intimidated. That was the first time I'd been to peer. And it was very intimidating. I didn't know how I was going to approach them. And I didn't know what I should be calling them. I didn't know who was House, who was Senate. I had no information until I got myself into a hallway of screaming, fighting senators. And it was like I was back in middle school again. All intimidation was off the table. It was like family reunions.
Well, and again, it's not even you have to go out to peer though too. I mean, the whole point of having local legislatures is that they are, as the name implies, local.
Local.
And that so these are people who are serving your own communities.
Yep.
It's yes, it's a 3-hour drive out to peer, but you don't have to drive 3 hours to go and talk to these people. And we have technology too. Even there's phones and there's ways to get in touch with these with all of these people. So it's and I haven't paid too much. I haven't paid too much attention on how the districting map is shaping up and how that all works. But I know there's a lot of situations where you're going to have a lot of legislatures who are now fighting for whichever seats.
Yep.
And so that's also going to give a lot more incentive for people to listen to you, because it's going to be a case of, well, I better make sure I'm doing what the people want us to do right now, because if I don't, then I'm not going to have a job next election.
And we have a lot of great candidates looking to take those jobs right now. So
Yep.
They will be minding their P's and Q's, because we have great candidates coming to replace some of the not great ones.
Well, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Kathleen, for trusting me to actually come out here. I know, especially when it's the first one, I don't have any way where I can show you and say, well, here's what I've done before. So I'm not going to just make it a total clown show.
Yeah.
And hopefully it hasn't been a total clown
No.
show for you. And that I think it's really important that your message is getting out. And I want to thank you for all the work that you are doing. And once again, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to either help you out or get some coaching? What's the best way for people to reach you?
Probably through Facebook Messenger.
Facebook Messenger?
Yeah. Because I think even if I get thrown in jail on there, I still have access to Messenger. That's the easiest way to just pop out. It's just a real quick process that I pop out if somebody needs help with an exemption.
Sure.
And then if people want to take it, next level, they can ask for my phone number through that platform.
So is there any big help that's like, apart from actually doing the things, are you wanting to expand this at all, or is it something that you're happy with the way things are and you're just keep going that same direction you're going?
I hope it stops. That's my hope.
Sure.
Yeah, it is one.
Obviously,
I just want it to be done. Honestly, it's silly. Nobody should have to be doing this, and there's a lot of walkthrough process. I've lost a little patience on that walkthrough process because it's been happening for months. If you didn't think it was going to hit you, your head has been in the sand.
Yeah.
You just now have to here it is, deal with it. I'm not going to walk you through that process. This is something I can help you with or not. I have no patience to talk people through why they should or why they shouldn't have to.
Yeah,
Get an attorney if you don't like it, and fight. fight back, pool your funds with your friends, find an attorney to take this to the next level.
It's, I always remember in Toy Story 2, when you have Barbie go and speaks out and says, I can't remember what the exact quote was, but basically, that government's coming from the consent of the people. And you know what, guys, right now, if you're not happy with this, stop consenting. And that's really what has come down to.
Absolutely.
Like, stop playing the game. The game is rigged against you. Mm-hmm. We need to stop consenting. And we need to make sure that we're actually standing up for the things that we care about. This is not going to go away unless people like you right now watching this video, actually does something about it. And if it doesn't matter enough to you to do it, then we're just talking to the wrong people, and we just got to go and talk to other people at that point. And so be it.
The one thing people have to remember is that you're not alone. A lot of us are just more quiet. I'm loud. You're loud.
I didn't want to be again.
We're easy to find, but when you're at a job and you think you're the only one, you're not.
Yeah.
I guarantee you're not. There is a poser or a pretender at every place of employment who has just stayed under the radar because they don't like confrontation.
Well, and this is the thing that really upsets me too. I had coffee with someone recently, and they were saying that they agree with, I can't say everything I'm saying, but they agree with the whole idea of small government and getting rid of federal government and small, like, being more focused on liberty and all these things. But they can't say it, because if they do, they're going to be losing clients and they're going to be losing people.
Yep.
And I was admittedly as harsh. Again, I'm not playing around anymore. I've tiptoed around people too much. Mm-hmm. I was very harsh, and I said, what you're saying is that here you have kids, and you're not willing to step up and make a better world for your kids because you just want a bit more money.
Yep.
And that's exactly what's happening there. And if at the end of this conversation, he said, it's great talking with someone who actually has a lot of the same ideas as me. And it's like, yes, you would talk to more people who have these same ideas if you would just talk about it.
Right.
And you weren't afraid to say it. By just staying quiet, you are letting other people control the conversation and push the Overton window, which I can't explain what that is, but pushing the Overton window in a direction that you want to go. And this is why, again, part of the reason why my channel, my what I do is called The People Have Spoken, because it's about speaking out and letting your voice be heard. And that is what is really important. But I think we're about out of time right now.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much, Kathleen. If you're watching this on YouTube, please also be sure to follow me on Rumble and on Facebook, because I don't expect YouTube to keep me on here forever. So I'm just putting on here to try and get more people aware of it. And if you're watching me on Facebook, also follow me on Rumble and the other platforms. The more traffic and the more subscribers I can get on those places, the easier it is for my message to get out and for people to find this kind of content. And also, if you go onto the Facebook page, I currently have a couple t-shirt designs. I'm adding some more t-shirt designs on there as well. I don't get any money making this, and this is quite a production. It takes quite a lot of time for me to do all this. So if you like any designs and you want to buy them, please do. It really helps me continue doing this and continue to get this message out. So thank you so much for your time and watching this. We'll see you again soon.